Hey everybody, so it's now Sunday afternoon. I've had 2 full days to try and absorb all of the music, all the remixes, the outtakes, the demos, the vinyl. Try to absorb all of this and give you a review. So that's what this video is going to be. My initial review of this amazing 50th anniversary edition of the Beatles White Album. So first things first, I will be talking about this. This is the 6-disc Deluxe Edition. And of course, this one you get the remixed album, remixed by Giles Martin. You get the Esher demos. Then you get 3 discs of outtakes, which are just phenomenal. So I will be doing my review of that right now, and then I'll also be doing a review of this. This is just the standard 2-record set. And I picked this up yesterday, the 2-record vinyl set. So first things first though, let's talk about this bad boy. Mine is number 0012717, if any of you care about that. I think it's cool that they numbered all these. They did not number the vinyl editions, which I think is kind of odd, but that's just how it goes. So anyway, when you, with this set, it's got a cool little slip cover here, which is pretty neat. Oh, and on the back, it just has the track listing of all the discs. So you get this, which is a really nice hardcover bound book, basically. And when you open it up, I'm going to try to open it up here to show you the contents. You open it up and you get the first set of CDs. So you get disc 1, disc 2, and then this is the Blu-ray disc. And the Blu-ray disc has the 5.1 surround mixes, and it has, I believe, like a high quality version of all of just the material that's within this box set. It also has the mono mix of the album. Now the problem is I don't have a Blu-ray player. I'm not really interested in Blu-ray all that much. So to me, this is kind of a worthless addition. But I guess eventually when I get a Blu-ray player, I'll be able to do something with that. But as of now, not a big deal to me. So you open this up, and this is a nice thick cardboard. Then the book begins, and the book is just great. It's got so much information and just really, really exciting. Every time I've been listening to this, I've had the book open to either the song I'm listening to read about the recording details or who's playing on it, or I've been reading about, there's a bunch of different articles in here, essays on like the making of the album cover, the times with which the music was recorded, just really interesting stuff. So I'll show you a few pages of this. You get table of contents here. There are a bunch of great photos in this book, a lot of them by Linda McCartney. This one happens to be a Linda McCartney photo. This is Paul's little, and I say little because it's quite little introduction. I don't know, for those of you who got this collection, this is like really odd, right? This write-up that Paul did, the Sgt. Pepper one was way more detailed and a little bit more thought out, it seemed like. This one struck me as odd. You get this first paragraph where he's talking a little bit about the White Album, but it's just kind of vague. There's not a lot of information, not a lot of how he was feeling or how he feels about the album now. Kind of vague. And then this second paragraph has nothing to do with the White Album at all. He talks about when they were all in a van heading from London back to Liverpool, and it was really snowing, and Mal Evans was driving, and the van like slid off the road and it slid down an embankment, and they all got out, and one of them said, what they say, he wrote it on here, one of them said, well, what are we going to do now? And then someone else replied, something will happen. And then he says, and sure enough, it did. I don't know, that struck me as kind of odd and confusing. Okay. Then you get a little intro by Giles Martin. Then there's this essay by someone else, and then there's a whole section with just all the lyrics written out, which is really, really cool. Then my favorite bit, all these great photos, by the way. My favorite bit, it's a song by song breakdown, and it lists, talks about each song is broken down in the same thing. Talks about like the story behind the writing of the song, and then it goes into the recording details and who played what, when it was recorded, when the mix was done. Just fascinating information. And then that's a really cool photo of Paul playing drums. Again, that's a Linda McCartney photo. So anyway, the book is just excellent. I can't recommend it enough. To me, the book, like the Sgt. Pepper set, the book makes getting Deluxe Edition worth it completely. It's just really, 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 really well done. Okay, so now let's get on to the actual music, the contents of this. So first and foremost, the remixes are so great. I definitely give them a solid A. Really, really, really excellent. And unlike the Sgt. Pepper mixes, they really they did not at all try to stick to the original stereo white album mix that we're all used to listening to. To me, Giles Martin really just took it upon himself to do what he thought was best and didn't refer at all to those previous mixes. I think really it benefits from that, to be honest with you. It's got, the clarity is just unbelievable, especially these CDs. I'll talk about the vinyl soon. But I'm sure a lot of you know, if you watch any of these videos on my channel, you know I am almost 99% of the time, I think, when it comes to any version of any album by any artist, I generally like the vinyl version compared to a CD version. For the first time, maybe ever, when it comes to the Beatles, I like the CD versions of this remix a lot more than the vinyl, at least the vinyl I got. They sound so great. The clarity is excellent. The bass is just unbelievable. My girlfriend, or actually my fiance now, and I listened to this yesterday. She was in the room while I was listening, and she was so drawn to it that she stayed and listened to probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We just listened to these remixes, and we both kept commenting, especially her, because she's a bass player, how Paul's bass lines, or whoever was playing the bass on whatever song, were just so clear and so punchy. It was like you were sitting right in front of the amplifier. It was just amazing, the bass tone that Giles Martin was able to reproduce on these CDs. In addition, the clarity, the highs are so crisp and clear. When you hear the hand claps on Obla Di Obla Da, it sounds like you're right in the room. You can hear them clapping. You can, like, if you close your eyes, you can see just by the sound, just the clarity of it. You can see the people in the room. It's unbelievable. I really, really think that Giles Martin did just a fantastic job. Now, there's going to be those people who I think are going to come out and say that they don't like the new remixes just because they are so different to what we're used to hearing. Now, for those people, I would recommend getting the vinyl version, because in my opinion, the vinyl pressing, at least the one I got, while it's not in any way bad, I would say that it's definitely more restrained than the CDs. With the vinyl, it seems like everything kind of gets a little bit more blended together. It's a little bit more mellow, definitely not as loud, which is actually kind of a good thing. But the clarity definitely isn't there like it is on these CD versions. And like I said, though, it's not a bad thing at all. It's just a different listening experience. But I'll get to the vinyl coming up. Back to the CDs. So those are some of the, sonically, that's the first thing that you notice. The bass, excellent. The highs, fantastic. Other thing you've noticed right away, and at first it did kind of take me took me back, and I didn't know if I liked it too much. The vocals on almost all the songs now are just so up front. And like I said, at first it kind of was jarring because I just wasn't used to hearing a lot of these songs like that. And the number one culprit for me that when I heard it the first time was Dear Prudence. Dear Prudence, John's vocals now are just right up front in your face, those double track vocals. At first I didn't know what to make of that, but now it's one of my favorite of the remixes. It's so great. You feel like you're just standing right in front of John Lennon and he's singing right into your face. It makes you appreciate how talented a singer all the Beatles were, especially John in this instance. So the vocals are just really, really cool. And I think it has to be said that, you know, for those of us who bought this, especially for me, I'm buying it because I want to hear the remix. I want to hear it in a different way. I want to experience the White Album in a different way. If I want to hear the way that we're all used to hearing out the 68 mix, the stereo or mono mix, I have the records to listen to those, and they sound great. But I want to hear the White Album in a new and exciting way, and that's what they did here. That's what Giles Martin really did. It's a new way to hear the White Album. You're hearing things that you didn't hear before. You're hearing things that you did hear before, but with way more clarity, and I think that's just so fantastic. Moving on, I have some notes here, so I'm looking at my computer, which is currently behind my iPad, which I'm filming this video with, so I'm able to see these notes. I wrote down here, to me, the best new remixes, the ones that I think you should just go out and listen to right away if you haven't had a chance. Year Blues, it's a whole other experience. Again, John's vocals sound amazing. You feel like you're in that little tiny room they recorded Year Blues in. I don't know if you know the story of that, but they didn't actually record it in the main studio building. They recorded it in like a little side storage room next to the studio. And you can really hear that with these new remixes. You can hear how tight they are in this room. And it's just it's so much more heavy than it ever has been. So definitely listen to Year Blues. Like I mentioned earlier, Dear Prudence, the new mix is great. You hear at the end, there's this end bit that Paul plays on the bass that I never even heard before. That's now on this new remix. So cool. Helter Skelter now, that intro when the drums come in, that it's the clarity that you can hear. I'm going to say the word clarity a lot, so get used to it. The clarity you can now hear that those tom hits with, it's so cool. And then the backing vocals on it are great. Paul's lead vocal is just so clear and so raw and in your face. Really cool. Helter Skelter is fantastic. I'm So Tired. I'm So Tired is like a whole nother experience now. I didn't realize how, well, I shouldn't say that. It's always been a very moody song, but this new remix, you really get the idea that it's like, it sets just such a mood. And this new remix, you feel like you're immersed inside this emotion. So check out I'm So Tired. Happiness is a Warm Gun now completely just rocks. The bass is heavy, the drums are heavy, the guitars just jump out of the speakers. Very, very cool remix. Long, 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 which has always been one of my favorite songs on the White Album. It's now has a presence that it didn't have before. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of that, especially on the original vinyl versions where after Helter Skelter, Long, Long, Long comes in and it's kind of quiet. On here, it's still pretty quiet, but there's just an extra presence about it, and you can really appreciate the song a lot more. So check that out as well. So I'm just totally in love with the remixes, and I can't wait to listen to them again and again, which I'm going to be doing. Now let's move on to the outtakes. So my favorite of the outtakes, I wrote them all down here. First and foremost, let me just talk about the outtakes in general. They're amazing. If you can afford it, try to get this set with the 3 discs of the outtakes. Actually 4 discs if you count the e-shirt demos. They're all, first of all, the audio quality is just top notch. They sound amazing. but just the historical value, and if you are interested at all in the Beatles' artistic process, it's just an amazing experience. And I've only listened to all the outtakes. I think most of them I've listened to just one time through. So this is just my initial feelings on them. I'm going to listen to them and study them a whole lot more. But I did take some notes as I was listening to the outtakes, and my favorites are, there's an early version, it's an early rehearsal version of Everybody's Got Something to Hide Except for Me and My Monkey, and it sounds completely different to the one that we're used to hearing, so definitely worth checking that out. Cry Baby Cry, which is the rehearsal take, it sounds like Pink Floyd, which is really, really cool. Totally worth listening to. Very fascinating. Helter Skelter, you get the complete take 2, which lasts about 12 minutes. And this is the one that they edited down a lot for Anthology 3. This is the unedited, complete take of that, and it's so great. It's relentless. It never lets up. Paul's vocal on this, he just sounds like he's on fire. It's very, very cool. Good Night, take 10, is the one that I'm sure a lot of you have already heard about. They talked about it. It's John on guitar, and then with Ringo singing lead, but then all the Beatles are harmonizing with him. And while it's very rough around the edges, and it's not as perfect as we're used to hearing from a Beatles recording, it's really, really fascinating, and it's really heartwarming to hear all the Beatles singing along. And it's an outtake that we didn't even know about. I guess they discovered it at the end of a session taper or something like that. So also very cool. Year Blues, take 5, which is the take that they did right before the take we're used to hearing on the album. Excellent, again, just the sound quality is great, and just the Beatles are just so tight as a band. They do it's an outtake, it's a cover of the song You're So Square, Baby I Don't Care. It's so short on here, but it's so great. It's Paul singing lead. It's during the time they were recording Helter Skelter, so it's that same sonic quality. But it sounds great. It makes you wish that it was a complete take of it. Birthday, the backing track. Listen to the guitars. The guitars just come screaming out at you. So cool. Happiness is a Warm Gun, take 19. Just fascinating to hear how tight they were, and this actually sounds a lot different than the released version, so worth checking out on that. Julia, they discovered these rehearsals of Julia, and you can hear John actually strumming the song instead of finger picking it, which is fascinating. So the outtakes are just great, totally worth listening to. The Esher demos, I haven't actually listened to all of them yet, but I did listen to a lot of the ones that I haven't already heard on bootleg. And my favorite of all those has to be the Not Guilty demo. It's really, really cool. And just, it's great to hear George. The one thing, I will say this, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but now it came into my mind. George really just shines on the White Album. The songs that he didn't put on the White Album are amazing. Not Guilty, Circles, Sour Milk Sea, those 3 songs are all just great tunes in my opinion. And they didn't even make the album. And then the songs he does have on the record, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Long, 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 Piggies, Savoy Truffle, are all just top-notch, great George Harrison songs. So, yeah, George, I just think is just underrated, and he really just shines on the White Album. So, that's what I think about the music aspect of this. I just love it so much. It's really cool. I hope all of you are enjoying as much as I am. So if I look at my notes here, there's a couple things I want to mention. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay, there are some things that I didn't like about this collection, and I'll mention them right now. Only a few. First and foremost, I wish that this. I wish it would have been the same size as the Sgt. Pepper Anniversary Deluxe box set, which is basically the size of a vinyl box set, even though it has CDs in it. it just would have been nice to have it in the sense of you could put them all together and they would all just look like have a nice uniform look to them on the shelf, right? Granted, I'm not taking away anything from this because this looks great. It's solid. It's going to look really nice on the shelf, and it definitely does the job of holding all the CDs in here, and it holds the book. So it's nice that it's all together like this. But it would have been nice to either have the Sgt. Pepper box set use this format, or have this use the Sgt. Pepper box set format. That's a very small complaint, but that is one of my complaints about it. Another thing that seemed kind of odd to me was that you don't get the Hey Jude or the Revolution single in here at all. Unlike the Sgt. Pepper box set, you did get the Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane single, because that was the single round release at the time of the record. It seems like they would have included that. You do get Hey Jude Take One on here, and you get the Revolution single version. You get some of the outtakes on here as well. But I don't quite understand why they wouldn't have just included the Hey Jude single and the Revolution single on here. Seems kind of odd. Also a little bit of a complaint, and it's not really a complaint, it's just a little bit more of like it leaves me kind of wondering why they did this. You get outtakes of Lady Madonna and Across the Universe and The Inner Light in this box set. Now I understand they were recorded and released in 1968, which is the same time as all the songs on the White Album. Okay, that's fine. But if you're going to do that, why don't you then include all the songs that were recorded during 1968, including Hey Bulldog, and there's Hey Bulldog is not on here at all. And to me, that's a little bit confusing as to why they wouldn't have included Hey Bulldog, and also why they wouldn't include just the normal versions we're used to hearing, the single versions of Lady Madonna, Inner Light, and then, like, I don't know, the World Wildlife Foundation version of Across the Universe. You don't get those. And like I said, this is a small complaint, but it just seems like if you're gonna include all this in here, why not keep it all together? Another small complaint, and granted, they didn't have enough room, and I do understand that, but maybe it would have been cool to include all the White Album outtakes that they put on Anthology 3 and just put them in this box along with it, just so you get everything that they've released for the White Album. It's all in one place all together. I get it though, we can't have endless CDs in this box set, so they did a great job. Like I said, small complaints. Let's now move on to the vinyl. So I wasn't really going to even get, I wasn't going to get the vinyl just because it's just so, or rather the records vinyl, I don't know, there's this whole debate about should we call it vinyl or should we call it records. I'm going to call it vinyl right now. Anyway, I wasn't even sure I was going to get in the LP editions. There's the 4 LP edition, and then there's just the standard 2 LP. I went for the 2 LP edition just because of it's cheaper, and I don't feel like I really need the Esher demos on vinyl. So I went this route. I picked this up yesterday, and I listened to it now all the way through once. And as I was saying earlier, it definitely it lacks the clarity of the CDs. And while that may sound like a bad thing, it's actually not a bad thing. It's just a different listening experience. It's definitely a vinyl listening experience. Everything's a lot more mellow, a little bit more rounded, and that's just fine. It sounds great. The remixes come through on here, just as good as the CDs. It's just a different experience. I'm going to keep emphasizing that because it just really is. It's not a better one. It's just different. Though also slight complaint I have about this, it's not numbered, which I think is kind of weird because the White Album was just known for that cool thing. They numbered all of them, so I think it would make sense to number these as well. Another thing is it opens up on the side here instead of the top, which I know like the early British releases opened up on the top. Or maybe it's just the mono ones, I don't know. Either way, it would have been cool to have it open on the top. It would have been a nice little touch. Also, you don't get any inserts in here, any extra inserts. You get the poster and you get the 4 photos of the Beatles, which are very cool. But you don't get any extra like 50th anniversary insert, you know, like talking about the new remixes, anything like that, which the Sgt. Pepper 2 LP edition that I got, you do get that. You get a little insert, which is really interesting, and it's kind of like just a slimmed down version of the book that you got with the Sgt. Pepper box. So those are just slight complaints there. Back to the audio quality of this. It's almost as if there's like a little bit of like a muffled sound to the highs on here, and then the bass is a little bit more like kind of a muddier sound. It's not as punchy, but again, it's not bad at all. I will also say one of the good things about the vinyl is that the CDs are boosted. They're pretty loud. They're not as loud as the Sgt. Pepper CD 50th anniversary, but they're still loud. I know a lot of you don't like that. I don't really like when they boost it too loud either. Although it doesn't bother me on the White Album ones as much as the Sgt. Pepper one did. But the vinyl, it's definitely a lot quieter, a lot more realistic in the sense of volume, and just a little, as far as the sense of like space around the music. The vinyl does sound excellent in that regard. And I listened to it on headphones and through the speakers, and it's just great. So you really can't go wrong with picking the vinyl as well. And if you're a record person like I am, it's almost essential to pick this up. So anyway, my overall feeling for this White Album reissue is that they did a great job, and I'm excited to keep listening to this set, and I know I'm going to find just a lot more that I enjoy about it as I go. So I think it's fantastic, and I cannot recommend it enough. So let me know what you think. Let me know which version you picked up for yourself and which one you prefer. And until then, I'll talk to you later. All right. White Album.